Hey guys, what's up? Third time's a charm. Sorry to keep butchering this, but that's what happens when you're new to the platform. Chappy here. Chap's Fantasy Chat. Tuesday nights at 7 on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Sorry for the late start. I was talking to myself. I've gotten quite good at that over the years. Podcasting has made me a professional. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see me now. It says live. I see that it's going live. Just give me a verification. Um, so so again, it's interesting because I'm not the one to sit here and tell you that I know what's going to happen with negotiations and all that happy crap. That doesn't give me joy. Malpow, I wore this for you. The M's for Malpow. I don't do this. I'm selfish. I do this for my own damn pleasure. But if I can give you guys good information along the way, then that makes it a double win. What I don't like to talk about is crap that doesn't interest me. Contract negotiations do not interest me. I hope we play baseball this year. If we play baseball or if we don't play baseball, it will matter not one bit about the content that I bring you. Actually, that's not true. I will continue to bring you baseball regardless of whether or not we play baseball this year, because I feel like this is a great opportunity for a student of fantasy sports in general, to learn how to attack the sport. How it's really, you're setting yourself up to play chess when everybody else is playing checkers. Because if you analyze these positions, you can really delve down and see where you have strengths and where you have weaknesses, and differentiate yourself from the pack. So last week I kind of told you guys a half truth. I did that on purpose. Just like I told you for the outfield position, starting pitcher is really every bit, if not deeper, than the outfield position is, and you can really gain an advantage by looking at statistics, applying them to how you think about drafting, and just putting a little bit of thought process into how you want to approach this game. I'll talk about some concrete examples in just a little bit, okay? But the funny thing is, turn your speaker up. The funny thing is really, pitching is like a whole other sport when you talk about fantasy sports. It's it's funny. I'm old enough that I remember the George Carlin bit about football versus baseball. Football's on a field and baseball's in a park and all that stuff. It's kind of the same way with pitching and offense, right? With offense, it's all the numbers are clean and tidy. They fit into their boxes, and you can differentiate between the two quite easily. They fit together in silos, right? They fit together in silos. So it starts out, or excuse me, the middle infielders. Awesome. Welcome, Ed. Welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for joining. I love that I can see that you guys are interacting right on this platform. It's a little bit different than what I've been doing, but this is way cooler on my end. I hope you guys enjoy as well, being able to interact with you guys. But offense, the speed guys are usually the middle guys in the outfield. The speed goes with runs. Power goes with RBIs. So everything with offense is nice and neat and tidy, all right? You don't have a whole lot of averages. Outside of, batting average, the rest of it's pretty much concrete. But with pitching, you start to have to put variables in, and that's where crap kind of starts to get complicated. And that's fine. You can still do it. But for instance, a 3.75 ERA for a pitcher that's thrown 70 innings is going to be very different from a 3.75 ERA from a pitcher that throws 200 innings. It's seen as a positive from the pitcher that throws 200 innings, whereas it looks as a negative for a pitcher that only pitches 70. So that's how you kind of have to look at it when you're going down through here. But again, just like I've done every other week, I'm going to set bars, and we're going to talk about who falls over or under that bar. We're going to start talking about our list today, but we're not going to talk a whole lot about it because I think it's important to set the premise before we go into the information. And I'm going to give you a bunch of good information before we even get into the list, okay? But tonight, I want to talk about how you take advantage of other people just being lazy, right? And, if you guys, I got a lot of people listening to me that I know personally. If you guys want to see my list and how I break it down, I'm happy to share it. Anytime, just reach out to me, and I'll show you how I do it, kind of explain it in a little bit more detail. But again, the only real facts we have, the only real data that we have is what was done in the past. So I like to take last year's numbers, and I know this isn't concrete. I know things fluctuate, but you start to build a story by setting up these bars, right? And you'll soon find these guys kind of weed themselves out fairly quickly, okay? What am I talking about? So again, the pitching category is a little bit different. You have some averages you have to deal with. There's some touchy-feely, fuzzy type numbers. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. I'm not saying I'm not going to analyze it, but I want to bring in concrete statistics, okay? Now, I am going to talk about ERA, and I am going to talk about strikeouts. Those, to me, are just about as important as pitching categories as you're going to get, okay? But I'm not going to read too much into it, not without going into how many innings did that pitcher pitch, right? And when I run these filters, I put it fairly low. I put it at 120 for this query. So you're capturing a lot of these guys that maybe got an injury and missed a couple months of the season, or is a young guy, like Chris Paddock type, who didn't who was shut down early or started late. So I like to set the filter on my innings pitch fairly low, but not so low that it just catches all kinds of junk. Okay. So with that said, when I start going through these, I want you guys to realize that's where I set my innings pitch filter at 120. Okay. So you guys that know me, I like to do the whole how many game, right? So let's start out with strikeouts. How many pitchers had 250 plus strikeouts last year? 250 seems fairly reasonable. 200 is pretty good. It used to be really good, but these days it's kind of changed, just kind of slided up a little bit. How many pitchers had 250 Ks last year? I'll give you guys a moment to think on that. It's really fun to do this. The information kind of takes you where you want it to go, right? But Andrew says 4 pitchers. 4 pitchers had 250. Any other guesses? Dave Craig, Ed, Sully. I just Andrea's guessed every number. Mount Pal says 7. I'm going to run it down. I'm going to run it down for you guys, okay? This is the number of pitchers last year that had 250 Ks. I'm going to run it down in order. Of course, Garrett Cole had 326. Verlander had 300. Bieber had 259. DeGrom had 255. We're skinnying out real quick, aren't we? We're at 4 there. Bauer had 253 and Strasburg had 251. So I see Andrea said Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn had 246 Ks, right on the cusp, but no cigar. Who else? Bieber's in there. Strasburg had 251. Robbie Ray had 235. He's 12th amongst the category. So, 6 pitchers. That's it. 250 Ks. 250 Ks is elite, right? You could set this bar a little lower, and you could go to 200, and that throws in a whole other group of people. I'm not interested in doing that because I want to know where I need to get my starting pitcher 1. Your starting pitcher 1 needs to have 250 strikeouts plus. Point blank. That's my opinion. Okay. Now, here's another good one. How many pitchers had an ERA under 3? Again, with a 120 innings filter on it. So they had to have pitched more than 120 innings. Pretty bland. Not that strange of a combination. Matt Boyd had 238, Malpal. Again, if you go down to the 200 number, it changes pretty dramatically. But I'm trying to illustrate a point here. Okay, so starting pitchers last year with an ERA under 3. Anybody want to guess? 120 innings. That's not terribly high. That's not, that's a good middle. There were. What's up, King Hap? First off, I want to take a pause because I want to get some answers. Listen to Chappie. I come to you on Tuesday nights on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Doing a lot of really cool things on this network, and really excited about it. I'm going to talk baseball whether we play or not, because if we don't play, we're going to really fine-tune this shit. We're going to really hone down on why we think player A is better than player B, right? So hang tight. I'm still going to talk football. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to talk football on this network. We're going to talk both, okay? And we're going to do both well, because I'm not going to do it if I'm not going to do it well, right? Don't forget to support your other podcasters. I see a lot of great talent on here on a daily basis. Of course, Lenny does his dailies at 9 a.m. Every weekday at 9 a.m. You can hear him. He does a great job. Love listening to him, his insights. My buddy Arnie Jones at various times of the day. Used to do a show with Arnie. Would like to get that back on the schedule at some point. Mike King Hat is he's he does such a great job with Taco. It was awesome listening to him last week or a couple weeks ago with Lenny. Andrea, she does so much for this network. Appreciate all of you guys and the support and the love that we have here. So ERA under 3. There were 10 of them. Hyun-Jin Ryu, 2.32. Jacob deGrom, 2.43. Garrett Cole, 2.50. Verlander, 2.62. Frankie Montas. He's not in this list. He shouldn't be in this list because he doesn't fall under the category. But I put him in here because, hell, I'm human. I make mistakes too. But Frankie Montas was having a great season. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. 2.63, 5th best ERA among starting pitchers. Soraka 2.68, Clevenger 2.71, Flaherty 2.75, Gray 2.87, and Scherzer 2.92, Andrea. So those are your 10. So 6 guys with 250 Ks, 10 guys, well, really 9 guys, if you include Montas, which I did, 10 with a sub 3 ERA. Now, you might say, who cares? Okay, granted. Here's the point. Just like last week, talk about those players. Where are they listed? Where are you getting Garrett Cole? Where are you getting Justin Verlander? Where are you getting Shane Bieber, Jacob deGrom, and Steven Strasburg? On the other side, deGrom, Cole, Verlander, Clevenger, Flaherty, Gray, and Scherzer. Those guys are all top, on the K side, they're all top 2-round picks. On the ERA side, 6 of them are top 3rd-round picks. That leaves you 3 pitchers in ERA sub-3 after the 3rd round. And it leaves you 1 stinking pitcher outside of the 2nd round with more than 250 Ks. And that's Andrea's sweetheart, Trevor Bauer. Again, yes, you're right. Among qualified starting pitchers. But still, obviously, the Ks kind of, that filters out because you're not getting a bunch of Ks if you're not pitching a bunch of innings necessarily. But the ERA is what gets you, right? My point here is, here's where you start to establish yourself when talking about creating an advantage. If you know this going into in advance, you can take real advantage of this when preparing for and executing a draft. You guys picking up what I'm laying down? Does it make sense? So let's talk about the players. Because there's really some excellent talent here. I'm not going to bore you guys because we're going to talk about those guys shortly. We're going to talk about the 1st rounders. We're going to talk about the 2nd rounders next week. But so again, Cole, ADP 5.4, mid-1st rounder. deGrom, ADP 7.2, mid-1st rounder. Verlander, 16.2, mid-2nd rounder. Strasburg, 22.2, end of the 2nd round. And Bieber, 24, end of the 2nd round. You've got 5 pitchers there, all going in the first 2 rounds with elite numbers. So unless you're trying to mine strikeouts from someone who didn't do it or hasn't done it, you are automatically, if you don't take a pitcher, one of these guys, as a matter of fact, in the first 2 rounds, you're starting from a disadvantage. But how many fantasy players are disciplined enough to do that research? Not many. Not many. So by doing this, you're setting yourself up to automatically be ahead of your competition. And that's what you want to be. Hi, Jasmine. Welcome. Let's talk about the one-off. Trevor Bauer. ADP is 79.4. I'm no mathematician, but that sounds like about a 7th-round pick. He was going about 40 picks earlier last year. And granted, he had an off year. He struggled, especially when he moved to Cincinnati. He wasn't doing terribly in Cleveland. He wasn't doing great. He wasn't having a Bauer-type year. But he really struggled upon his move to Cincinnati. That said, even in an off year, he had 253 Ks. Bueller's not on those lists, Malpal. But if you think about it, and I'm going to talk about Buehler, he's not on that list because he was constricted in his innings last year, at least on the K. So, sorry, let me go back and tell you where he lands on those lists because I think that's a valid point. You'll be surprised where I have him. Buehler was 18th in Ks with 215. Buehler was 16th in ERA with a 3.26. But people forget about Walker Buehler is he had an innings push last year. So you would expect his ERA to take a little bit of a balloon. You would expect it to bump up a little bit, right? but that doesn't mean he's not valuable. We're going to talk about him in a minute, more like 15 minutes. But the thing about Bauer, he was a third round pick last year. As I said, his strikeout total last year was a career high for him. I have to feel like, even though he took this huge step back in ERA last year, I feel like his work ethic, his attention to detail, and his just never-ending pursuit of being perfect tends to have him rebound this year. And the fact that you're getting him at a discount, again, he was a third-round pick. So he's a third-round pick last year, struggled. He fell to a seventh-round pick. That tells me he's still pretty damn good, right? So if you don't get lucky and get one of these guys in front of him, and again, pitching more than on offense is kind of like hitting a moving target, right? Because a lot of things change from moment to moment with pitching, let alone season to season. You will not see me drafting Garrett Cole. I'm not spending a fifth overall pick on him. I'm just not doing it. Not for a guy that had really two phenomenal years in Houston and has been pretty mediocre, not pretty mediocre, just above average outside of Houston. I don't know if we're going to see more of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Garrett Cole, who is still pretty good, or if you're going to see more of the Houston Astros, Garrett Cole, because a lot of things have to mesh up for him. And the other thing about Cole is you just don't know how much that cheating scandal affected him. Now, I know what you're saying. This was tipping pitches on the offensive side. I don't know how that would affect the pitchers. Well, run support, first off. But then also, in addition to that, you don't know what the pitchers are doing as well, right? So I'm just wanting to get – boy, that's a great question, Malpal. Malpal wants to know how many guys on this list were on the list for the first time. Well, I could tell you without researching, Cole was. I'd say DeGrom probably was not. I'd say Verlander was not. I'd say Strasburg, he battled some injury issues, so I don't know. I'd say probably two of them, which is a great point. If you're sorry, this is a new platform, so I'm kind of multitasking here. If you're listening on Zoom and Facebook, we're also streaming on LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. If you're listening on LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, we're also streaming on Facebook and Zoom. So that's why we're kind of interacting with both sites. But here's the point to take away from pitchers, because I want to move into ERA, because there's a little bit more meat on the bone for ERA. If you don't get Cole, if you don't get DeGrom, Verlander, Strasburg, so point. Strasburg and Bieber, to me, are the two biggest values of that group because of where they're going. I feel like regression too speaks well to both of those guys in comparison to the guys above them. So I think Cole, DeGrom not as much, but maybe a little, and Verlander are going to negatively regress. Whereas I think Strasburg and Bieber continue to ascend. But the fact is, outside of the strategy, you get one of those, preferably Strasburg or Bieber, in the second round, and then you turn back around with Bauer and say the sixth. You're getting two of the top 250 strikeout guys, and one of them at a discounted rate. No one else will be able to say that. Even if some jagoff goes pitcher at the turn, you're spending your two top picks, right? Whereas if you get a Bieber, you're still getting your first round pick, right? So again, just playing out strategy in your mind and how you want to attack this stuff. I do think Bauer rebounds well this year. You know what I mean? When we come back, I think he continues back on a positive regression when we resume. So that's K's. Interesting. I mean, you guys want to talk about players on this list, and that's great. We can talk about that. So, from 250 to 200, you have 15 guys. Lance Lynn had 246. Scherzer had 243. Scherzer's interesting because, people forget he missed about 10 starts last year with his injury, but he still put up really good numbers, right? So Scherzer's up there at eighth in strikeouts. Look for that to go up. That might be a value you want to look at. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Charlie Morton, 240 is ninth. Matt Boyd, 238. Patrick Corbin, 238. Robbie Ray, 235. Someone mentioned him, is 12th among the category. Jack Flaherty, 231. He's an interesting case. We'll talk about him some a little bit later as well. Aaron Nola, 229. Yu Darvish, 229. Giolito, 228. Another interesting case. Luis Castillo, 226. Chris Sale, 218. Krasimov. Walker Buehler, 215. Ed Rod, 213. Sonny Gray, 205. And Mad Bum, 203. That's your list of 200 plus strikeout pitchers. That's it. 22 players. You'd think it'd be more, right? So let's start talking about these guys with the ERA. Because here's where it really gets fun. Here's where you can – so it's not a whole lot of fun saying, hey, if you want to create advantage, go draft Trevor Bauer. That's kind of freaking lame, right? Here I'm going to give you some guys that you can kind of bank on, right? So, again, same premise, same kind of storyline going on. You got as I get up to it here, DeGrom in the first round, Cole in the first round, Scherzer in the second round, at the turn, 13.8. Verlander in the second, Flaherty in the second. That's your 5 pitchers in the top 2 rounds. In addition, Mike Clevenger is a third-round pick. There's 6 pitchers in the first 3 rounds that have a sub-3 ERA. That leaves you with a whopping 5 other pitchers. Luzardo doesn't fall into this category, Malpal. He does not qualify. But there are some guys here. There are some guys here that you can really take advantage of. And I'll go in accordance to draft position because that's how you're targeting these guys, right? You're not targeting what their ERA is. I can give you, the leaders, but let's talk about where you can get these guys. So again, six guys I gave you in the top 3 rounds. Outside of the top 3 rounds, Mike Soroka is the first guy that comes to mind. His ADP is 94. That gives him around an 8th, 9th round pick. The thing I really like about Soroka, he had a 2.68 ERA, which leaves him at 6th amongst qualified pitchers. He's only 22 years old. He pitches like a vet. He's very Maddox-esque. He's really good with his control and his command. He's young. He's poised. He won't blow you away. He's not going to strike out a ton, but he contributes with wins because he's on a really good team, ERA, and WHIP. Mike Soroka in the 8th, 9th round, I think, is a really good steal. I look for him to only get better. Again, the fact that he's just 22 years old, he's already handled quite a workload. As I try and get to it without seeming like I'm trying to get to it, he's pitched excuse me, 174 innings last year as a 21-year-old. I'll say that again because I think it bears repeating. As a 21-year-old, he pitched 174 innings. I look for this guy and he can do that because he's not overthrowing. He's pitching. He's not throwing. So Soroka's, if you're in a dynasty, if you're in one of these leagues that you can keep players, Mike Soroka is about as good as it gets. You could get him again in the 8th, 9th round. I highly suggest targeting him. And I won't. I'm not going to tell you I suggest all these guys. I don't. Um, most of them I do though, because it really is rarefied air when you're talking about 4 guys, whatever it is. Sonny Gray is the next guy with an ADP of 95, one spot behind Mike Soroka. So begs the question: would you guys rather Sonny Gray or Mike Soroka? They're both the same draft investment. 2.87 was Gray's ERA last year. That leaves him at 9th amongst starting pitchers. He has had a couple of bad years. He in 2016 he had a 5.69 ERA with the A's. In 2018 he had a 4.90 ERA with the A's and the Yankees. But aside from those 2 years, he's been under a 3.5 pretty much every year since. So he's been fairly consistent. Dave Craig says Ciroc. I agree, Dave. I agree. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I would think it's a terrible idea to draft both. If you got to go around early on Soroka to get Soroka and Gray, if you're not satisfied with your SP1, these guys will make really good SP2s and SP3s. I'll say that. So, the thing about Gray that I like, again, he has a sub 3.5 ERA in 4 of his 7 seasons and a sub 4 ERA in 5 of his 7. He's made 20 plus starts in every season since his rookie year. And the biggest point to take away from this, in my humble opinion, y'all know me, I'm not humble. I was told sarcastically that I'm a wallflower today. He loves pitching in Cincinnati. He hated being in New York, and it showed. He didn't like having a spotlight, the constant media questions, the constant, harassment after a bad game. Cincinnati's low key for him. So it's not going to hurt him that he's got this great offense there. It's not going to hurt him that he's got Trevor Bauer taking some pressure off of him, that he's got Luis Castillo taking some pressure off of him. Sonny Gray in the 8th round, to me, is a real steal. I would suggest going after both of these guys, getting Soroka around early, and then coming right back with Sonny Gray. It enables you to loosen some things up and really target on your hitting. If you go with a pitcher in the 1st round or 2nd round, so if you go with Bieber or who the hell did I say earlier? Bieber or Bauer, excuse me, Bieber or Strasburg in his 1st, 2nd round, in the 2nd round, and then you turn back around with Soroka and Gray. So Bieber, Soroka, and Gray, you're set up. You're in good shape. You got strikeouts and you got whip. And you could do that pretty easily, right? So again, there's only 4 of these guys that we're going to talk about. We've talked about 2 of them. Let's talk about the other 2. Frankie Montas. Guys, I love Frankie Montas. Frankie Montas' ADP is 111, which leaves him in the 10th round. Sidebar, he doesn't qualify. He doesn't qualify. He didn't pitch enough innings. Of course, he was having a career year until he got popped. PEDs. I read into it. I researched a little bit last night. And it was a supplement. he talked about, boy, it's a really good article. He talked about, I'd publish it for you guys, but well, maybe I can. Hold on. Yeah. You gotta love technology. You guys that are in the on Facebook, there you go. But he talked about a suspension. He talked about how devastated he was. It was an over-the-counter supplement. It was a weightlifting type supplement. But he didn't know he was taking it. And he was so down and out when he got suspended. He went back home, I think to Arizona, and he totally secluded himself from the rest of the world. He didn't look at Twitter. He didn't talk to his family. He talked to his wife and his son, but he didn't reach out to his family back home or any of that happy crap. Um, but it gave him good perspective. He was really embarrassed, and you almost hate to see it, but you like to see it too, right? It's a learning um, point for him. And I look for Mont. It's not like he was shooting up whatever, some stupid freaking steroid. He took an over the counter supplement that was illegal. He didn't know it was there. It wasn't. He said it wasn't even on the bottle. The ingredient wasn't even on the bottle. How you gonna fault the dude? But let's talk about last year when he got hurt. He was an emerging ace. He throws the ball hard. He works hard. He's humble. I don't know, George. I mean, I hear what you're saying. George is saying they all play dumb. I don't know. Seemed fairly convincing to me. I am kind of a bleeding heart, I guess, but whatever. I like to get the point of the article is he let his team down and he doesn't want to let his team down again, which I totally buy into. Okay. The things I like about Frankie Montas. And if you read that article, please do so after this show. He's 27 years old. 27's the new 24. 27 to pitching is 24 to hitting. Okay. This is the time when he starts to come into his own. He has talent. He's proven he can do it, even if in short sample sizes. And going in, even before the suspension last year, it was obvious he was going to have to get shut down at some point. He'd already started 16 games when he got popped. Career high. He already had 96 innings. Career high. 30 more than he had the year before. So he was going to get shut down anyway. But the thing about this article that really comes across to me was his humbleness. So in this article, it says his emergence could be attributed to a split finger pitch and him basically stopping throwing his changeup. His splitter became his out pitch, but what that really enabled him to do was show, and this is from an anonymous AL scout, that he just has it. And this is a quote, he has an innate ability to locate his secondary pitches. They talk about command, they talk about rhythm, and they talk about feel. Those are the types of things you hear people say about Mike Soroka. Those are the types of things that you hear people say about Greg Maddux. Not from a guy who's throwing mid-90s to high 90s. I love Frankie Montas. On top of that, what did he do? He didn't fucking sulk. He went to the Dominican League, and in 5 starts in the Dominican League, he had a 1.44 ERA with 26 Ks and 25 innings pitched. So he shouldn't be rusty. He should be ready to go. Last point on Montas. When you think of the Oakland A's pitching staff, what do you think about? Mike Fears? Yeah, probably before him. AJ Puck? The Randy Johnson comparison? Yeah, probably think about him. Sean Manaea? Yeah, you're thinking about him. Mount Pal's boy. Jesus. Jesus Luzardo. You're talking about 4 guys. They're kind of carrying some pressure. When Montas goes out there, he's not going to have a whole lot of pressure on him. I love where Frankie Montas sits in this rotation. I love what I'm reading and hearing when I listen and read what I'm seeing. His humbleness, his work ethic, the fact that he's willing to say, it's on me, I screwed up, even though, again, to whoever it was, George or Mount Pal's point, cry me a river, I don't believe that crap. That's fine. He's owning it. That's what I guess my point is. I love what Montas brings to the table. And bring in the final point. Boy, what a lineup. Boy, what a team. I mean, I talked about the pitching staff. The offense is unbelievable. So really, it's a perfect storm for Frankie Montas. And if you're talking about what I say, a 10th round pick, it's not a good value. It's a great value. One more point on Soroka that I purposefully skipped over. He had the 21st best whip of all pitchers. That's not nothing. So he's not hurting you there. I really like what this kid brings to the table. Of this group, outside of Soroka, Montas is my second. Okay? He's my number 2 out of this group. And all 4 are good. So I'll counter this. So we talked about Sonny Gray earlier. I told you I like Montas. I told you I like Soroka. Would you rather Hyun-Jin Ryu or Frankie Montas? Interesting case. 132 ADP. That's a 13th round pick. End of the 13th round. 2.32 ERA. That puts him at, sorry, I got to find it. I didn't write that one down. Oh, leading the category. The best ERA in the majors amongst qualified pitchers. 33 years old. There's a perception about Ryu. He's been around long enough that he's earned that perception. But what people don't realize, people that are lazy, people that aren't willing to work, I shouldn't say they're lazy. It just relying on perception is very different from digging into data, right? Ryu's actually had a pretty good career. So at 33 years old, he's shown long stretches where he has an elite ERA. He made 29 starts last year and finished second among the Cy Young Award among the Cy Young Award. But again, his injury history, changing leagues, and playing, quite frankly, in the toughest division of baseball. You got the Yankees, you got the Red Sox, you got the Rays. It's not going to be easy for him. But I think this guy's up to the task. What's up, Dave? I see you over there, buddy. So, here's some points. I want to drive this point home for Hyun-Jin Ryu. That he's been more durable than maybe we're willing to give him credit for. In 2013, he had 30 starts as a 26-year-old rookie. He had a 3.0 ERA and he went 14-8. The next year, in 2014, he made 26 starts. He went 14-7 with a 3.38 ERA. Dave Craig, I know you know all this already. Big Dodger fan. Couple years with some injuries. In 2017, this is his worst professional year. And this is what people remember because people have short-term memory loss. They forget about things in the past. He had a 3.77 ERA. He did start 25 games, but he went 5-9. Again, a 3.77 ERA isn't terrible, but it's not up to the caliber of the previous 2 years, right? But then last year, kind of showed his old self again. At 2.32 ERA, he went 14-5 in 29 starts. Ryu is rated so lowly because he has a perception of injury. Right or not? But what he has is a track record of contributing in this category quite strongly. He has a career 2.98 ERA. So I really urge you guys that if you get one of these guys with these high strikeout totals early, look at Hyun-Jin Ryu in about the 12th, 13th round. I think this guy's a tremendous value. You guys didn't answer me. Ryu or Sonny Gray? Take the ADP out of it a little bit. I mean, you have to balance out. You have to assume you're getting, Would you rather, for an SP3, invest in the 8th round on Sonny Gray or get a batter there and invest in the 13th round or Hyun-Jin Ryu? It's a good conversation. They're very comparable. So again, if you don't get one of these guys, if you don't get one of these first 3 round guys, that's your choices. That's it. That's it. Soraka, Gray, Montas, Ryu. It kind of changes perspective on things, doesn't it? So let me pose 2 sets of questions to you guys before we go in. I'm going to talk about 20 to 30 minutes on these these first 6 pitchers. You're building your team. You've decided you want to hitch your wagon to a fairly high draft capital veteran pitcher. Given the whole package, where they're being drafted at, their age, and their performance, would you rather Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, or Clayton Kershaw? And then we'll go on the other side. So you're looking at 3 guys here in the first 3 rounds that are 30 plus years old. I'll then go on the flip. You're looking for a young, exciting stud pitcher to invest in. Would you rather Walker Buehler, Shane Bieber, or Jack Flaherty? So the old guys, Kershaw, Scherzer, Verlander. The young guys, Buehler, Bieber, Flaherty. Who are you guys taking and why? And this is, there's no wrong answer here, right? I mean, all 6 of these pitchers are well established. And Andrea, it's a great point. I was talking to my boss this morning. I started out in one direction, but then I quickly went to Kershaw because of that. And one other thing. You're right, George. All 3 are good. So, sorry, let me go down to it. Bueller's 25, Bieber's 25, and Flaherty is 24. Again, it's a tough decision to make. So let me age before beauty, as they always say. Let me start with Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander is the oldest of this group. At 37 years old, he has 15 years in his career. He is sitting at a .636 win percentage with 225 wins and 129 losses. Just under 3,000 innings pitched, 2,982, 306K to 850 walks, 9.2 Ks per nine. His ADP is 16.2, which puts him in the middle of the second round in a traditional 12-team league. Again, 37 years old, 15 years. The next oldest guy, Verlander, 37, Max Scherzer, at 35 years old, it's a 12-year career, 170 and 89. 170 and 89 is a .656 win percentage, 20 percentage point higher than Justin Verlander. 3 years difference in the career, 55 more wins. That's a lot of wins, guys. That's a lot of wins in 3 years. 2,290 innings pitched, 2,692 Ks to 618 walks. So you're looking at, just eyeballing it, 300 less Ks, 230 less walks. Ks per nine, 10.6. A full 1.4 Ks per nine better than Verlander. George, you're full of it. So, again, 2 years younger, 12-year career. How about Clayton Kershaw? Clayton Kershaw's 32 years old, guys. Pause for dramatic effect. 32 years old. Now, you might be thinking, oh, okay, well, his numbers are going to take a hit because of it. No. He's been around just as long as Max Scherzer. 12-year career. He's got 169 wins and 74 losses. He's got one less win than Max Scherzer. He has 15 less losses than Max Scherzer at 32 years old. A .695 winning percentage. Best of the three. 39 points better than Scherzer, and 70 points better than Verlander. He has a career ERA of 2.44. 2,279 innings pitched, 2,464 Ks. That's 170 more than Scherzer. 577 walks. It's about 50 less walks. And he has a career 9.7 Ks per nine. So I'll say it again. And Andrew made a great point. Hell, I don't even have Scherzer on here. No. Scherzer's at 13.8. Verlander's at 16.2, and I got to go get Scherzer because I don't have it right in front of me, so bear with me one moment. Or excuse me, Kershaw. Kershaw's way down there. So, point to this story. Max Scherzer's a value right now. I keep saying it. Clayton Kershaw's a value right now. ADP of 34. He's just 32 years old. Just some food for thought. Okay. So let's talk about the young guys because this is fun too. There's 3 guys here in this first round under 25 years old. All 3 of them are established major league pitchers with a high ceiling already. Would you rather, guys, Walker Buehler, Jack Flaherty, or Shane Bieber? Order those guys for me. And there's no wrong answer here. They're all 3 great pitchers. So, again, Buehler, Flaherty, or Bieber? What are those guys? And why? Buehler's 25, Bieber's 25, and Flaherty's 24. Let's talk about career stats. I want to do Bieber first because it's my show and I get to dictate that. You're at the 8 o'clock hour. Chappie here. Chap's Fantasy Chat, Tuesday nights at 7 on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. This hour has been brought to you by Elijah Craig. I like Elijah Craig because I know where it's going to land me. It's pretty smooth. Some of those other whiskeys, they kind of they leave you they leave you wanting some water. But no, I know what I'm getting when I get my Elijah Craig. I know where it's taking me and where I'm landed. So George says he's like Alan Craig. You know, I love having this support. I love having you guys in here. I love having this discussion because there really is no wrong answer. And Dave, I'm glad you're here because Dave's a big Dodger fan. For you guys that don't know that, so the fact that I get to talk about 2 Dodger pitchers tonight, for Dave, kind of makes me happy. So I want to start with Shane Bieber. I feel like Shane Bieber is going to be the best pitcher in the American League for the next 7 or 8 years. I don't say that lightly. I just feel like, he came up and he's developed. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I've got some stuff on that. Shane Bieber, 25 years old, 2 years pro experience, 26-13, a 3.72 ERA, 259 Ks and 63 walks, 10.3 Ks per nine, 25 years old. I want to do Flaherty next. 24 years old. A year younger than Bieber, but he has 3 years experience. I'm going to talk about George. I'm going to talk about Garrett Cole in a moment. Jack Flaherty's 19-19. Doesn't sound great. But his ERA is only 3.20. 433 Ks to just 55 walks. Again, as a refresher, Bieber was 259-63. Flaherty's 433 to 55. 10.6 Ks per nine. And the last guy who I really want to talk about. Thanks, wife. The last guy I really want to talk about is Walker Buehler. At 25 years old. Guest Ava. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, brother? Thanks for coming. The last guy I want to talk about is Walker Buehler. At 25 years old. 3 years pro experience. 23-9. A 3.12 ERA. 82 walks. And a 10.3 Career Ks per 9. So, moral to this story, you're really playing the ADP card because all these guys are really freaking good. I'll still rank them for you, in my opinion. It's Bueller, it's Bieber, and it's Flaherty. I love Flaherty. This time next year, Flaherty might be a top 3 pitcher. 433 Ks to 55 walks says a lot to me. So, again, I think there's, you can't go wrong with either of them. Whether we're talking about the old dogs or the young dogs, there's 6 pitchers there that are on opposite ends of their career, and it's a really good conversation as to who you prefer and why. Me personally, I'm taking Kershaw, and I'm taking Bueller. Dave Craig, I know you're super excited off in your corner somewhere. I don't blame you, but I just think it lines up very well for both of these guys. As a matter of fact, as I start talking about this top 6, next week we'll get into basically 7 through whatever we get through. We'll probably do 3 episodes of pitching because it is that deep. So, again, all of these guys have similar ADPs. All of these guys have similar expectations and draft capital. You're going to pick, a top 2 or 3 pick on all 6 of these guys. And where, ideally, if you're confident enough in your offensive output, or what you can gain in with the offensive output, you can get both of these guys. You could either go with a Scherzer or Bueller, or a Bieber Verlander or a Bieber Kershaw. You guys are making me. You guys are trying to force a point. Quit pressuring me. I'm going to talk about Garrett Cole. I knew y'all were going to do this. I want to talk about my top 6 here because I knew this would take a lot of time to get through, but I think it's good information. Do you guys agree? And look, basically, you're looking at 5 pitchers right off the bat, just by looking at statistics from last year, to create value. If you're just joining in, sorry, I'm not going to recap them. Y'all should have been here. I know that's harsh, but let's talk about it, though. Let's talk about these first 6 guys, and then we'll jump right into it next year, or next week, rather. So, before I unveil this, I have to say, when you're looking at this list, don't think it's just a straight scale of, oh, this is the best pitcher, this is the second best pitcher. I like to weight my scales according to value. Okay? It's value plus talent to me, not talent plus value. So when I'm ranking these guys, I do so accordingly. So it's not going to be your traditional, Garrett Cole's not at the top of this list. Okay? He's actually 5th. But I am going to talk about him. I wanted to put him in the top 6 because I wanted to talk about him. I wanted you guys to understand why I have him ranked lower than others. Even though he had 326 Ks, even though he had a 2.5 ERA, even though he had an 0.85 WHIP, there are reasons why I have him lower. Okay? Bear with me. Max Scherzer, number 1. ADP of 13.8. Slipped a little bit last year. He had an off year with 11 wins, 2.92 ERA, 243 Ks, a 1.02 WHIP, and 12.7 Ks per 9. Why do I like Max Scherzer so much? Why am I talking about him at the beginning of this list? Well, damn it, because he was at the beginning of this list last year. And right now, he's going off as the 3rd pitcher off the board. I think that's a mistake. He's been as consistent as one could ask for during his career in Washington. As a matter of fact, he hasn't had an ERA over 3 in 5 years in Washington. I'll say that again. We talked earlier about pitchers with a sub 3 ERA. There were 6 of them in the majors. 6. He hasn't been over 3 since he came to Washington. He's averaged 274 Ks per inning or per year there over 5 years. He won 2 Cy Youngs, and last year he capped it off with the World Series ring. He had the second highest K rate per 9 among starters at 12.69. Only Garrett Cole had more. So, the perception could be that he's injury prone. He went on the DL twice last year. But here's the facts. His 2 times on the DL last year matched how many times he'd been on the DL during his entire 11-year career. He's only been on the DL 4 times in 11 years. So, the hell you say? He's not injury prone. As a matter of fact, he's damn durable. He made 30 starts plus in 11 straight years. He needed the postseason to do it last year. He had 27 regular season starts, but then he made 5 starts in the postseason. He went 3-0, by the way. And again, he won a ring. For me, guys, when you're talking about value and you're talking about a 2.1 moniker, so 13.8 to me means he's the first pick of the second round. This guy's value. He's been as consistent as you can ask for. Last year, he struggled to the tune of a 2.92 ERA with 243 Ks. That's your floor, guys. That's why I have him 1. If you're starting your team, that's where I'm going. Number 2, David Craig, Walker Buehler. Whereas Scherzer's 35, Buehler's 25. 15.4 ADP. We're talking about a first half of the second round pick. But I think that's tremendous value. I say that because Buehler's handled every obstacle thrown at him. He's gotten better every year. He's passed every test. He saw a workload increase of 45 innings last year and actually increased his Ks per 9. He went from 9.9 to 10.6. He should take over as the true ace this year from Clayton Kershaw and continue to hold that for as long as he's wearing a Dodger uniform. The thing I like about Buehler, when you go into Baseball Savant, he's got 4 pitches with a 25% plus whiff rate. Guys, that's really good. Excuse me, 24 plus. His 4-seamer has a 24% whiff rate. His cutter has a 26% whiff rate. His slider has a 32%, and his curve has a 37% whiff rate. He has 4 put-out pitches, guys. He's learned how to pitch from one of the best pitchers of this era in Clayton Kershaw, and he has 300 plus K potential. What's not to like about Walker Buehler? Again, 182 last year. Malpal, to your point, that's why you didn't see him among the leaderboards in Ks. But I think we're headed there quickly. If you put him at 300 Ks, again, he had 215 last year and 182 innings pitched. If he goes up to 220, you can add another 50 to that. I love Bueller, and again, at the top of the second round, I would absolutely take a chance on him. He has such a high floor. No, you're right, Dave. And it's funny because y'all heard me talk about Pujols a couple weeks back. I did a thing on Trout last year. I like bringing history into this stuff. I like Kershaw. When you run those numbers down, and that's kind of why I did that. Um, there's a lot of meat left on that bone to pick. At 32 years old, he really stands a chance to have resurgence for the Dodgers and put up some really elite numbers for the next 5 or 6 years. So yeah, I like Kershaw, and I agree with what you're saying. Number 3 on this list, Jacob deGrom, and again, talk about one of the best pitchers of this era. DeGrom's now 31 years old. He's got an ADP of 7.2, which means he's the second half of the first round. He struggled to get run support in New York for whatever reason. But his career, this is crazy to me. His career ERA, want to take a guess? Want to take a guess, guys? What do you think DeGrom's career ERA is? He's pitched 200 innings in each of the last 3 years. He's pitched 30 games in each of his last 3 and 4 of his last 6. He's had a whip under 1 for the last 2 years. And he has an 11.3 Ks per 9 and a 0.8 walk per 9 rate. I'll say that again because it seems pretty good. He has a 0.8 base on balls per 9 innings pitched rate. Under 1 walk per game. Damn, that's good. His career ERA. I almost have to look this up because it looks video game like. Sorry, guys. I've told you many times I don't multitask well. His career ERA is a 2.62. Not only is it under 3, it's well under 3. You're not talking about a 1 or 2 year player. You're talking about a guy who has 6 years of experience at the major league level. Now, final point on DeGrom. Pitching suspect behind him. There's not a whole lot of depth. You have Stroman, you have Matz, you have Porcella, and you have Waka. But the offense is pretty damn good. Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Ahmad Rosario, J.D. Davis, Conforto, Ramos. They got a lot of talent there. You'd think DeGrom would get more run support. He shouldn't have to have a 2.62 ERA to be a damn effective pitcher. Number 4, Shane Bieber. Here's a guy, you want to talk about a dramatic increase. I wanted to put Biebs as my number 1, but I just couldn't do it. Fact is, though, I have a lot of Shane Bieber in my lineups. He has such a high floor, and he does it on control and command. We've just seen the tip of the iceberg with this kid. He's only 25 years old. He got by in his rookie year with just a fastball and curve. Excuse me, a slider. But last year he started to throw this curveball. And really that's what turned Shane Bieber into the player he is. His whiff rate on his curveball is 48.7%. He held opponents to a 212 batting average against it. If you how to say this? If you're in a league and you want to corner the market in pitching, why not go Bueller Bieber 1-2? I love Bieber at the end of the second round. He's now the ace of the staff. He'll continue to develop into the starting pitcher one that he is. 259 Ks, third amongst all starters. 1.05 whip, 13th amongst all starters. And 300 plus Ks and an under one whip seems pretty reasonable for this guy. That puts him as a first round pick, quite honestly. So I love Shane Bieber as pitcher number 4. Whoever's been harking on it, pitcher number 5, Garrett Cole. And again, this list isn't your traditional list. It's more based along the lines of value. At 5.4, for me, Cole is going too high. And I know all of his numbers look very video game. 20 wins, a 2.50 ERA, 326 Ks, an 0.85 whip, and even 13.8 Ks per nine. What, Chappie, why the hell do you have him so low? Well, I'll tell you why I have him so low. You got to show me you can do it outside of Houston. There's a cheating scandal going on in Houston, and that doesn't mean that we know everything about what's going on there. He was really good for the Astros, but he wasn't so good for the Pirates. That's not true. He was mediocre for the Pirates. He's above average for the Pirates, but not what he did in Houston. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to say that Cole's not always going to be an elite strikeout pitcher. I'm just trying to say that 326, banking on that again, seems like a bit of a wish. A 0.85 whip seems like a bit of a wish. A 2.50 ERA seems like a wish. And I'll give you some facts behind what I'm saying feels. Okay? So, sorry, I'm trying to read and talk. Doesn't always work out. Cole in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, he had 734 Ks in 5 years. In Houston, he had 602 Ks in just 2 years. That tells me probably going to come back to earth, right? So okay, I'll give you his stat line in Pittsburgh, and then I'll give you his stat line in Houston. 94 and 52 in Pittsburgh. 3.22 ERA, not terrible. 734 Ks to 203 walks. Not good, not great, or not terrible, but not phenomenal either, right? A 3.22 ERA, about a 3-to-1 K to walk ratio. But in Houston, in 2 years in Houston, he went 35 and 10 with a 2.68 ERA, 602 Ks to 112 walks. It's a big difference. So was the water in Houston? Did he really like his teammates? I'm just a little skeptical. And again, 5th, 6th pick overall, it's not for me. I'll take my chance on one of these other guys. That's my only point with Garrett Cole. I'm not saying he's not going to be successful. I'm not saying he's not going to be a top 10 pitcher, but I'm not drafting him in the first round. I'm not doing it. So I won't have any shares, and I'm okay with that. The last guy I want to talk to you guys about tonight, and probably the most intriguing of this group for me, Jack Flaherty. ADP of 23.2. He's a 24-year-old player. Second-round pick. Guys, he pitched 196.1 innings last year as a 24-year-old. That signifies to me his ability to pitch as a true starting pitcher. One. His 2.75 ERA is 8th best among all major leaguers. And you'd think as a 24-year-old pitching for the first time in his life that many innings, there's room to grow with that, right? He was 13th in Ks with 231. He was 4th in WHIP with an 0.97. Only 6 pitchers had a WHIP under 1.0. At 24 years old, guys, his opponents hit 194 off of his four-seamer and hit 184 off of his slider. Together, those two pitches accounted for 74% of the pitches that he threw. So you're telling me 3/4 of the pitches that he threw, opponents hit under 200 against. As a 24-year-old. Oh, and by the way, his sinker, which he only threw at 11% of the time, they hit 153 against that. So you're talking about 85% of your pitches well under a 200 batting average. Now, he needs to develop that, right? But I love Jack Flaherty. You're talking about a possible first-round pick that you're getting at the end of the second round. Again, values come in all shapes and forms. Jack Flaherty's a value. Guys, I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. I want to talk more about these pitchers next week. I'm going to get really in because there's a ton of value here. There's a ton of guys here that you can really capitalize on building your team, right? We're going to talk about that second tier of strikeouts. We're going to talk about that second tier of ERA because it's important. And we're going to break down 6 to however freaking far I get. And we're going to do one more after that. But pitching is so important. And when you talk about strategy, it really sets things up. So I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me tonight. You're listening to Chappie on Chap's Fantasy Chat, coming to you on Zoom and this StreamYard thing, which I love. Thank you, Andrea, for setting it up. I'm also brought to you on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Tonight's episode was brought to you by Elijah Craig and Diet Dr. Pepper. Diet Dr. Pepper because Diet Coke isn't being sold with Splenda in the stores right now because of an aluminum shortage, unfortunately. So I'm having a suck down soda that I don't really, it's just okay. But again, join me again next Tuesday. We're going to talk more about pitching. We're going to delve deep into these guys. We're going to talk about these guys that provide great value, guys that you can get at a reduced price, that help you win your league, that help you establish dominance. Chef's Fantasy Chat, LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, Tuesday nights at 7. Support your podcasters. I want to thank all you guys that came in and supported me tonight. Mike Harrington, King Hap, Jamila Martin Chaplin, my best half. Thank you so much. Dave Craig, Ed, Jasmine, Jonathan Solly, Ed RPH, Royals Boom. Go check out Kevin Hastings and Royals Boom, Aloha Fantasy Baseball. Check out King Hap. Check out Roto Imbeciles. Check out Lenny. Weekdays at 9 a.m. Such a great group. Thank you, Andrea, for all you do. Both podcast wise and supporting this network. We love and appreciate you. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Thank you all for joining and hanging with me. Take care.